Language has an important role in human social interaction as a main tool to communicate something. The language used may indicate the intention of someone through communicating a message. A speaker will produce some messages from language that encodes the message as its meaning. The message will be identified and composed by hearer. The communication may be successfully delivered when the hearer decodes the same message that the speaker encodes. It means the hearer has to recognize appropriately the speaker's message. The phenomena existing in the conversation may be elaborated deeply in pragmatics, a term that comprehends why the speaker uses the language in particular ways and what the meaning actually beyond the utterance. As humans, we are social beings, and when we talk, we usually talk with or to others, unless we do a monologue. Paul Grice, an English language philosopher, argues that speakers intend to be cooperative when they talk. For Grice, cooperative means that the speaker knows that each utterance is a potential interference in the personal rights, autonomy, and wishes, a potential faith-strengthening act of the other. That is why we have to shape our utterances in a certain way. Grice formulated the principle of cooperation that underlies conversation. Cooperative principles are the concept of conversational implicature that refers to the inference of a hearer in comprehending what the speaker intends. It arises from a hearer's interpretation of the literal meaning of what the speaker said in the conversational principle and its maxims. Grice in Paltridge, 2000, stated some kinds of cooperative principle that must be assumed to be in a conversation and some kinds of rules that can help us to get a certain interpretation of what the speaker says. If the rules are not obeyed appropriately, some indication to the contrary will be received. In social science generally and linguistics specifically, the cooperative principle describes how people achieve effective conversational communication in common social situations, that is, how listeners and speakers act cooperatively and mutually accept one another to be understood in a particular way, as phrased by Paul Grice, who introduced it in his pragmatic theory. Make your contribution such as is required at the stage at which it occurs, by the accepted purpose or direction of the talk exchange in which you are engaged. Though phrased as a prescriptive command, the principle is intended as a description of how people normally behave in conversation. Jeffries and McIntyre describe Grice's maxims as encapsulating the assumptions that we prototypically hold when we engage in conversation. The cooperative principle is divided into 4 maxims of conversation, called the Grecian maxims. These 4 maxims describe specific rational principles observed by people who follow the cooperative principle in pursuit of effective communication. Applying the Grecian maxims is a way to explain the link between utterances and what is understood from them. In this video, we will only be focusing on one of Grice's cooperative principle, namely maxim of quantity. In the conversation, the speaker often means more than what he literally says, thus needing rules to govern the use of language, since we cannot be expected to behave in reasonable ways without them. The philosopher H.P. Grice in Yule formulated a conversational implicature that one of the principles is cooperative principle. The principles are maxim of quality, the maxim of quantity, maxim of relevance, and maxim of manner. McManus stated, "We commonly receive inference from what speaker says according to the assumption that he is obeying the cooperative principles. This system of inference drawing is a kind of side effect of the maxims. Maxims whose primary reason for being is regulate conversation." To start with, as stated by Paltridge, there are situations where we are required to violate one of these maxims. The writer tries to explain what contexts of situation that influence the violation of maxim of quantity happen. The speaker can violate the maxim of quantity if giving more or less informative contribution to indicate something. The violation can occur in not only asking and answering situation, but also in the common conversation, such as making a statement. Maxim of quantity is required to know whether the speaker gives the required contribution or not. Based on the rules stated by Grice, the speaker may obey the maxim of quantity if he gives the appropriate contribution, not too much or too less. It becomes interesting to analyze the topic since, in certain situations, the speaker, whether consciously or unconsciously, may violate the rule to reach a certain goal. To define this concept, in Maxim of quantity, you make your contribution as informative as is required for the current purposes of the exchange. Second, do not make your contribution more informative than is required. Third, we have to be as informative as required and we shouldn't say more or less. Lastly, the speaker will not provide extra information that is not needed to complete the current conversation, purpose, or situation. To better understand this notion, here are some examples.
Merida, a princess does not place her weapons on the table.
Mom, it's just my bow.
A princess should not have weapons, in my opinion.
I said I don't think that he's good for you.
How do you know what's good for me?
That's my opinion! Don't you get it? Why can't anybody have an opinion but you?
And I yell.
Do you not
How
get
do
it?
you know what's
That's
good
my
for me?
opinion.
I'm in a hurry.
Yes, you look like you're in a hurry.
Yeah, absolutely, and I only got a few minutes to spare. Perhaps you could help me.
Of course.
Can you tell me what time it is?
Yes. Hey, Nino.
Hi, good to see you again.
Nice to see you too. How are you?
Well, unfortunately, I have a headache. My body temperature has risen up to 37.2 degrees Celsius. My blood pressure is a bit high. My current heartbeat rate has gone up to 19 beats per minute. I'm pretty thirsty, and furthermore, I haven't eaten for hours.
Stop it. Just stop it.
My feet are sore.
No. Stop it.
Okay, I'm alright.